me!
Hello, my trigger-happy friends. My name is Stevie Caine, and thank you for joining me as I continue reviewing all live-action Batman films. Before we get started, if you could, hit that subscribe button and the little bell ding thing so you get notified every time I upload a new video. So grab your keyboards, head down to the comment section, and let's review Batman Begins. In this movie, a young Bruce Wayne travels to the Far East, where he is trained by the League of Shadows. But when Wayne returns to Gotham, he is forced to face his previous trainers in a battle for Gotham. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a long time to watch this movie when it first came out because I was really stuck on Tim Burton's Batman. Like, I thought that was the only Batman, there's no other Batman but that Batman, and I'm not giving any other Batman a chance. I just made fun of it. I was kind of being an asshole. And then I actually went and saw this movie, and I loved it. And this film went through many changes over the years. It was originally supposed to be maybe a continuation of the Tim Burton films in a Batman called Batman Triumphant, where Tim Burton, Michael Keaton, and Jack Nicholson were rumored to return for their roles. Jack Nicholson in more of a dream sequence sort of manner. Then it evolved into a Batman Beyond story, and then a Batman Year One, which it kind of shelved on for a little while until Christopher Nolan picked it up, took that Batman Year One idea and ran with it 9 years later. But before we dive into the actual review, I want to go over my Batman checklist. This is a list of Batman things that I think each Batman movie should have, and I want to compare and contrast how they evolve or change throughout the films, or maybe things they got rid of or decided to keep and make different. First, the Bat suit. This is an all-black suit, and to me it kind of resembles the suit we got at the end of Batman Forever, which ironically is the suit they used to do the screen testing with Christian Bale for this movie. It has the full bat symbol chest piece, but it does upgrade to a microfiber cape, which uses electromagnetic energy or whatever, so it can take on the form of a glider so you can glide through the city and whatnot. Great addition. This movie does a great job really explaining why these bat things work the way they do and how he goes about doing it. One of the many aspects I love about this film. But I did notice that this suit has a little too much flexibility. Now, we all are aware that the previous bat suits are made out of rubber. They mention it multiple times throughout the series. But this one, it's supposed to be a carbon fiber suit. But there are many, many scenes in this movie where it kind of ruffles up around the shoulders and chest areas, showing that it's not really a carbon fiber suit. It's still just a regular rubber suit, but we're supposed to believe it's a carbon fiber suit. Watching it on a big TV and Ultra HD, you notice it a lot more. The Batmobile. We went from a bumper car to a full-on tank.
I gotta get me one of those.
AKA the Tumbler. This is a take no shit, I do what I want and get the F out of the way tank. A great evolution to give us something different from what we've seen before, and it kind of makes sense that a Batman would have this style of Batmobile in these times. The Bat gadgets. We have the classic gasoline-powered grappling gun. We also get homemade mini batarangs, which are supposed to resemble ninja throwing stars. And we get one of my personal favorites, the Bat sonar device, which is a little sonar piece that goes under his boot that apparently summons all the bats from his cave as a distraction so he can escape undetected. And then a quick note, we had a little Bat periscope thing that you see that he gives the kid.
The other kids won't believe me.
The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because that kid, I wish this kid would have been Robin in the future films. I will explain myself when I get to that review, so please remember that kid should have been Robin, and I'll explain how he could have been Robin when I get to my The Dark Knight Rises review. One element I noticed that was missing from this Batman was his use of smoke pellets to escape a situation. In the movie, they do explain using theatricality to distract your enemies, but when he is Batman, he doesn't really use any of that. He uses other things to distract his enemies, but he doesn't use the gunpowder and, more notably, the classic smoke pellet that Batman has used in all comic books and film and TV shows in all times. And then we have the Bat Cave. This is a cavier cave than what we got with the past two previous films, which I thought looked more like a bat basement. It's not as grand as the 1989 and the Batman Returns Batcave, which was a huge crevasse underground. And I also like the entrance from Wayne Manor. You know, it's very discreet. You got to play the piano out of key just a little bit in order for that false bookshelf to open up. But the entrance to get into the cave from outside, that's a little iffy. It's just on the other side of the waterfall. No wall to block it, no wall to open up when you arrive on the other side of the waterfall. That can be a little mishandled in my opinion, because people naturally like to discover waterfalls and like to investigate waterfalls and just have fun with it. So if you walk behind a waterfall, which I've done myself many a times when I go into an area that has a waterfall, there's no protective layer. It's just open cave. Okay, there's the Batcave. It's just out in the open for anybody to find by accident. With the Batman checklist out of the way, let's move on to what I like about this film. We are introduced to Bruce Wayne in a Far East prison. This not only shows us that we're in for a completely different story than we've ever seen before, but it also takes us out of Gotham. Gotham is kind of on the back burner for a good chunk of this film, while Bruce Wayne discovers the rest of the world and takes himself down a peg. Because he is the Prince of Gotham, like Falcone says, you'd have to go 1,000 miles in any direction just to find someone who's never heard of him. And that's what he does. He goes beyond that, goes where people have never heard of him before, and deconstructs himself. And here we learn everything about Bruce's journey to become Batman, what it takes for him to be Batman. And it grounds him in a realistic world, which begs the question, why don't we have any real billionaires that have chosen to be Batman yet? And then we have the League of Shadows element. This is where Batman learns his training of his fighting style, which has never been spoken of before or never been shown to us before. He just knows how to fight because he's Batman, and that's what Batman does. But this really opens up that gate, shows us not only his training, but where he gets his integrity. As Ra's al Ghul, or Henri Ducard, whichever you want to call him at this moment, teaches him that becoming an idea will allow you to become greater than a man. All these aspects together are the ingredients of what becomes Batman in this film, and something we've never seen cinematically before. Up until this movie came out, this rich story was only told in the comic books. Now, this movie also introduces Bruce Wayne's family, so we don't just see them as being murdered in the alley, we actually get to see how he interacted with his family, or I guess mostly his dad, because I don't know, they don't really, I guess Bruce didn't care about his mom all that much, at least not in this movie. But we see Thomas Wayne being his teacher and earning that place in Bruce's heart that makes his death that much more impactful. And then we get to dive into Wayne Enterprises in a way that we never have before. Previously, it was just we saw Bruce Wayne going around talking like the spokesman of Wayne Enterprises. In this movie, they strip Wayne out of that element and they make him more of just a regular employee. Wayne Enterprises in this movie becomes its own character, something that Bruce Wayne himself has to overcome with his knowledge instead of his brute like Batman. And Wayne Enterprises becomes a key element in this universe that reverberates throughout the entire trilogy. Much like the 1989 Batman, Gotham City is also a character in this movie. A character that I feel gets lost in the future films of this particular trilogy, but we'll get into that in the future reviews. I really feel like the time spent in the shallows of this film, that is what I imagine Gotham is. There's a heaviness, a grungy, dirty, poverty-stricken feel that just adds to the element of this Gotham being a living, breathing character of the movie. Now for the cast and characters. Christian Bale as Batman and Bruce Wayne. This is what the audience deserves as a Batman. As I said previously, we dive into what makes Bruce Wayne into Batman. In a sense, how Batman saves Bruce Wayne by taking his anger and his vengeance and turning it into something positive to help his city and the people in it. We get real character development and fully understand the integrity of Bruce Wayne in this movie, which is something we haven't really seen before. He starts out brooding, and we all know Batman to be brooding, but by the end of this movie, he's not really brooding as much as he feels this is his responsibility to take care of his city, and Christian Bale shines that integrity perfectly. Michael Caine as Alfred. Again, this is not my favorite Alfred, but I do enjoy this adaptation. And he was my favorite Alfred when this movie came out, but we've had other iterations since that I now like better. You know who I'm talking about. We'll get to that review later. We get to dive deeper into the relationship between Bruce and Alfred. Alfred's not just the motherly figure like the previous films was. He's also the voice of reason, but he's also the stern voice. He's not afraid to tell Bruce Wayne how it is and put Bruce Wayne in his place.
What is the point of all those push-ups if you can't even lift a bloody loaf?
Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon, or Detective Gordon as he is in this film. Now this is how you Gordon. The previous films just threw that character away completely. I love this version of Gordon. He is thus far my favorite version of Gordon. He is a good cop trapped in a corrupt police system. He wants to do good for the people, and he sticks to that integrity even if it alienates him from the other police who take bribes and abuse their power. And we also dive into the true relationship between Batman and Gordon in this film, and how they grow that unbreakable trust. Gary Oldman's performance really captures a running on empty beat cop who's hanging on to a thread of hope and is reluctant to put faith in this new vigilante that has shown up, but is showing that he's helping a little bit. But ultimately, his faith does pay off. Tom Wilkinson as Carmine Falcone, or Falcone, however you want to say it. This could have been a simple side antagonist with throwaway dialogue, with a phoned-in performance. But Tom Wilkinson gives Falcone this empowerment. He shows that he's a force to be reckoned with, and that he also represents what is the scum of Gotham.
So don't come down here with your anger, trying to prove something to yourself. This is a world you never understand. And you always fear what you don't understand.
Falcone in this movie is somebody that I would imagine everybody would fear because he's so powerful. And I really like the way they portrayed this character. I really enjoy the way he was written, and I really enjoy the way that Tom Wilkinson played him. Now, some things I'm on the fence about when it comes to this movie. This is where I take a group of characters and actors and I have to separate them a little bit because I don't think there's any real bad acting in this movie. I mean, there might be some bad acting, specifically from the fake Ra's al Ghul we get in the beginning of this movie. Gotham is beyond saving and must be allowed to die.
It is beyond saving and must be allowed to die.
He sounds like a Bond villain. But other than that, all the actors do a great job. But the characters that they play, I'm a little questionable about. Like the relationship between Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul. The real Ra's al Ghul. The Liam Neeson Ra's al Ghul. I personally think they should have picked one and ran with it to be the main antagonist of this film. I mean, I like Scarecrow and I like Ra's al Ghul, but I think Scarecrow could have been a background character. Maybe we got a slight origin. He's the corrupt doctor at Arkham Asylum. I think his main storyline could have been absorbed into Ra's al Ghul because their relationship is really only known through dialogue. They actually don't have any interaction whatsoever throughout the film.
Who are you working for? Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul is dead. Who are you working for?
So they seem like two different storylines that just connect together because we were told they connect together. And another part of the Scarecrow storyline could have also been absorbed into Falcone's part. With Falcone and Ra's al Ghul, I didn't really see a need for Scarecrow. I liked seeing him in this movie, but he wasn't necessary to the main storyline. They could have continued the story just fine without him. Rachel Dawes. This is a very important character, but I don't think she pulls as much weight as she could have. I mean, she does for the first part of this film, but as the story unfolds, she becomes less of a protagonist and falls more into that damsel in distress category. I think they had good potential to make her a strong female lead, but they kind of mishandled it in the second and third act, and she just fell into that classic, as I said, damsel in distress storyline that many of Batman's love interests fall into, except for Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman. That woman was badass. Plus, Rachel Dawes totally cockblocks Bruce Wayne at the end of this movie.
And I found out about your mask.
Listen, ladies, that's fucked up. Stop messing with our emotions. Another thing that I'm on the fence about in this movie, and that's how Batman acquires his tech, his gadgets, his pretty much everything he has. It's all just given to him. The only thing he really makes on his own is the batarangs, the little mini batarangs, the Ninja Star batarangs. Now, I love Morgan Freeman and his portrayal of Lucius Fox. I love the character of Lucius Fox. But I would have really liked to have seen maybe Lucius and Bruce Wayne work together to kind of create some of these things and use Wayne Tech to create it maybe in their own lab together, rather than it was already made, it's just in this drawer waiting for Batman to use. Which also begs the question of how do more people not recognize this stuff in the streets? There are many other people that were involved with a lot of this tech. These things were not only invented, they were tested. They were government approved or disapproved. Just with the tumbler alone, Lucius Fox says they could never get the bridges to work, but the tumblers work just fine, meaning people had to be testing these things. Multiple people had to be testing these things, and once these things start showing up in Gotham and Batman's driving them, it's not too hard to connect the dots. I'm on the fence with it because it's kind of just a minor, we're gonna brush this under the rug. You know, just too many people. Too many people would have recognized these things. Moving right along with what I don't like about this film. Thomas Wayne. Now, this could fall into the category of bad acting. I'm not sure if it's bad acting because Linus Roach is actually a good actor, but this Thomas Wayne comes off as dry and insincere. It's almost like he's talking to somebody that he thinks needs special attention. They're stupid and won't understand him unless he talks gently to them.
Gotham's been good to our family, but the city's been suffering. People less fortunate than us have been enduring very hard times.
Does that make sense? Anybody else get this vibe besides me? It doesn't quite work for me, and it doesn't sell the loving relationship that Bruce Wayne is supposed to have with his father in this movie. Bruce Wayne escaping the League of Shadows on his own. He is fresh out of training and he defeats the entire League of Shadows. That's a little too unbelievable because there's like 50 of these martial arts trained assassins and 2 Ra's al Ghuls. To me, it seems like it would have been way more difficult for Bruce to actually escape this situation. I don't believe he could have escaped it in the way that he did so easily. Whenever I watch it, I'm just like, okay, they just let him go. Let's talk about the microwave emitter and the weaponized hallucinogenic. If the hallucinogenic compound needs to be absorbed in the lungs in order to work, and they've been putting it in the water system for weeks, why hasn't anybody felt the effects when they do simple things like boil water or take hot showers? Realistically, there are millions of people that boil water and take hot showers in Gotham City alone. If they've been doing this for weeks, I would imagine that there would have been countless of reports of this happening, which would have led an investigation to the watering system, and this would have gotten busted way earlier in the movie. Realistically speaking, I know it's a movie, but hey, this is what I noticed. Now the microwave emitter that only microwaves convenient liquids, because when this thing's turned on, it should honestly microwave everyone's blood in their bodies, and that should be a horrifying scene in this movie, but it doesn't. Quite a big loophole in an otherwise well thought out film. And I can't help but to think of it every time I watch this movie. It kind of takes me out of it a little bit, like, that's not how that works, and that's not how that works, and that's not how these things work together. Now lastly, I'm just being petty here. I really am. This is totally a petty point. But the guy that Batman hangs upside down and interrogates, you got a little something on your lip there, buddy. Yeah, a little piece of food. It's gross. And if I were shooting this scene, I would have done a retake without that food on your lip, because ew. Overall, the reimagining of this film was a breath of fresh air. It not only set a standard for Batman mythology and how Batman stories are told, but essentially it dawned the reboot era of cinema. Everything from David Goyer's script to Christopher Nolan's storytelling to the phenomenal cinematography and the entire cast and crew came together as a perfect storm that created this magnificent film. My issues with this movie are very minor, and I can honestly sit back and enjoy this film anytime. And for those reasons, I'm giving this movie a solid A.
That was wonderful! Bravo! I loved that! Oh, it was great!
And there you have it, guys, my review for Batman Begins. Let me know, what do you guys think of this film? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you prefer the old school style of films? Or do you like how this movie evolves the Batman character and grounds him into a more realistic setting? Let me know in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out some more of my videos right here. And as always, stay trigger happy, my friends. Peace.